Hello and welcome back to the channel. If you are new here and you just stumbled on, this is the Black Guy Podcast, and I am your host, Michelle. On this podcast, I would like to discuss a subject that actually caught my attention a couple of years ago, and it was the steady decline of men who were dropping out of the workforce. And then I had to ask myself, because that's I did ask while I was working on that particular podcast, if men aren't working, then what are they doing? Where are they going? What is happening to them in life? Because it began to, let's back up a little bit. It began to occur to me that a great deal of the bitterness that these men seem to have toward women is because women are working. But again, I came to a question that if this is the patriarchy, most of the time the workforce is built and gilded toward the men. What about the workforce is uh, pushing men away? So I didn't really do any further research. I just sat back in the cut and I just watched and listened. And I listened to the I listened while Red Pill told men not to go to school, not to go to college, uh, to take all their frustrations and their anger and their inadequacies out on women. And I posted a video. You may go back, I will link it in the description. An NPR report in which men were not going to college. And so I began to look at the entire situation of men dropping out of the workforce. And the main reason was education. But then it just wasn't education alone, right? There is a male loneliness epidemic. And because there is a male loneliness epidemic, there are men who are depressed. I posted a video about that. Lonely, not just for women or men do not have social structures. So I posted a video on that. Turns out the reason why a lot of men are dropping out of the workforce is because they cannot maintain a social hierarchy, a social structure in their lives. They have no friends, they have no education, and increasingly, the workforce is becoming more advanced. So the future is telling everyone that having an education is key. Women seem to have picked up on that and they're getting their education, but the men are falling behind. So I found this video that may explain why men are dropping out of the workforce. And hopefully, we can find out if there is a possibility for things to turn around. Because I have to say, I blame the red pill for this nonsense. I blame the red pill for their poison. They poison our young boys, they poison their minds, their spirits, their souls. They have garroted, rotted the minds of young men who are lost out here in this world. And I talked about this in the previous video where I said that I was in the library and these are boys, young men who are trying to get their lives together and get a job and work. And they're stunted. They can't read. They have no reading comprehension. And the thing that they were glued into was this manosphere red pill content. No real positive uplift, no real direction, just anger, hate, make money. Anyways, I don't want to get started on that. I want to share this video with you. And I will probably interrupt as a course to explain how I feel about those things, and then I'll have a commentary at the end. So, without further ado, let's find out why men are dropping out of the workforce.
As of August 2024, 13.7% of prime age men were not working, compared to just 7.2% in 1954.
The long-term decline in labor force participation by so-called prime age men is a tremendous worry for our society, for our economy, and probably also for our political system.
There's a surplus of prime age workers who could be working and aren't. And that's this puzzling problem.
The unemployment rate for prime age working men sat at 3.4% in August 2024. This number primarily includes those who are unemployed and looking for a job. But about 10.5% of men in their prime working years, or roughly 6.8 million men nationwide, are neither working nor looking for employment, compared to just 2.5% in 1954.
What's
So, I have to ask the question, if they're not working, what are they doing? If they're not making money, what are they doing?
surprising is it's not a COVID phenomenon, it's not a recession phenomenon.
And for every prime age man who is unemployed and looking for a job, there are more than three, and some years four, who are neither working nor looking for work.
So, what's driving men out of the workforce? And if left unchecked, what impact will it have on the US economy? Nearly half of prime age men out of the workforce cited obsolete skills, lack of education and training, poor work record, or security issues as a reason preventing them from work.
Education is a very important predictor of a prime age man's odds of being out of the labor force.
The big impacts are on the non-college educated groups on their ability to turn and stay in the labor market.
Men who are not college educated leave the workforce at higher rates than men who are. At the same time, fewer younger men have been enrolling in college over the past decade.
If you look at the geography of where the most prime age men out of the labor force are in particular, they tend to be in places that have experienced manufacturing declines. They used to graduate with a high school education and have good, stable jobs. They weren't glamorous jobs. They were, automobile factories, sometimes mines, other manufacturing jobs, but they were respected, they were stable, and they could support a family. Since then, due to technology driven growth, due to Chinese competition, you've had a lot of manufacturing firms and the places where they were located that were one horse towns become ghost lands, right?
Wages could also be a contributing factor.
I want to stop there because I know I said this in the beginning of the video, and I'm going to say it again. When you hear these men, these so called leaders, these red pill guys, they're always denigrating education. When I posted a video and I talked about the video in the beginning of this video from NPR, which was talking about how men needed to be educated, they needed to go to college, and why they needed to go to college. So many men in my uh, in the chat were outraged at the idea that they needed a college education. They were so convinced that college education was a scam. They were convinced. Oh, you're going to spend all that money and there's nothing going to come out of it. I can't believe that this is going to happen. And I'm trying to explain to them that your job, because they're really rooted in, you're the backbone of this economy, you're the backbone of the job. And I'm saying, yeah, but you have to look ahead. And none of these red pillars, they always teach these young men and these boys to live for the here and the now. They never tell them about how the future holds. They never tell them about the consequences of not having an education. Usually, these are low income men who are in dire need of direction, who are not being directed to the right places. And this is sad. What a waste of billions of hours of listening and video and nothing came out of it for the men. No good came out of it for the men and boys.
Median annual wages for men with a high school diploma have fallen from just over $57,600 in 1973 to $45,000 in 2023, adjusted for inflation. At the same time, wages for those with a bachelor's degree or more have increased by about $6,300 during the same period. This decline in earnings led to a 44% growth in the exit rate of men without a college degree from the workforce between 1980 and 2019.
I think honestly, status plays more of a role than wages. As I said before, you had a manufacturing job, it was respected, you were part of a community, breadwinner for your family, you had organizations like unions or Rotary clubs that surrounded your job, and that's gone.
In general, men without children are also less likely to participate in the workforce compared to men with children, especially men without education or training after.
Well, that's because men with children have to pay child support, and no matter whether you're working or whether or not you're working, you're still going to have to pay that child support. They're not going to let you off the hook and let you just skate by and not take responsibility for what you've done. Society is holding men more accountable than this other, the red pill, or this is ridiculous.
After high school.
What we have seen is a huge rise in the proportion of prime age men who've never been married, and a very, very significant decline in the proportion who are currently married and have kids at home. And those two trends track closely with the big changes that we've seen about male attachment in the labor force. Correlation isn't always causation, but looking at that correspondence is real important, I think.
Meanwhile, 57% of the roughly 10% of men not looking for work said their physical or mental health was the main reason for not being employed, with 55% citing a disability, serious illness, and or receiving disability benefits.
The whole question about the health and the mental health of male workforce dropouts is an extremely important and I think concerning one. Distressing proportion of the men who are out of the workforce say they're using pain medications every day.
A 2017 research paper estimates that an increase in opioid prescription between 1999 to 2015 led to about 43% of the decline in men's labor force participation rate during that period.
So then you have to ask, what sort of pain are we talking about? Are we talking about physical pain? Are we talking about metaphysical pain? There's an enormous amount of depression, mental health challenges that men in this grouping face. Some of this is a chicken and egg question. Did you drop out because you were feeling sad, or are you sad because you dropped out and you're living on the couch?
So, I don't know how this just happened.
Unemployment is really terrible for people's well-being. Often people adapt to all kinds of negative shocks, losing a kid, being widowed, whatever.
I want to stop it there because one of the things that really bothered me about